came across this poll a couple of days ago by Muhammad Hijab, who apparently is a Muslim influencer. And the question on this poll is, if you're a Muslim, what causes you to doubt your religion the most from the following options? Number 1, moral arguments against Islam. Number 2, scientific arguments. Number 3, arguments for the truth of another religion. Or number 4, the weakness of the Islamic civilization. As you can see from the results of this poll, by far the thing that causes Muslims to rethink and doubt and question their faith are the moral arguments against Islam. In other words, when they discover who Muhammad was, that he was a slave trader, who encouraged the rape of captive women, and who was a paedophile with a 6-year-old wife, and he consummated that marriage when she was just 9 years old, and a murderer who beheaded thousands of people across his lifetime, and who engaged in constant looting and theft, and who encouraged deceit, and who tortured people by cutting off their hands and their feet. When Muslims hear about all of this, it puts huge doubts into their minds about the veracity of Islam, and it causes many to walk away altogether. Remember, most Muslims have only heard about a heavily sanitized version of Muhammad, and they don't know about any of this stuff. So when they hear about it for the first time, it shakes their faith to the core, and again, it causes many people to leave. In other words, Muhammad, ironically, is Islam's weak spot. He's their central figure. He is their prophet. And yet his obvious and self-proclaimed atrocities written down in the Quran and in the Hadith mean that anyone who discovers this stuff is absolutely repelled. They're repulsed by who Muhammad really was. Therefore, if we want to bring Islam down and liberate and rescue people from this cult, the statistics say, expose Muhammad, shine a light on who Muhammad really was. We could potentially get around half of Muslims to walk away if we simply show them who Muhammad really was. And we don't even really have to do anything other than point them to the Quran and the Hadith, their own books. Now, this was really interesting to me because, as many of you will know, the last video that I made for the Fuel Project was called Jesus versus Muhammad. And in that video, I shone a light on 23 of Muhammad's sickening words and deeds. And we spoke about all of this stuff in that video. And after making that video, I actually thought to myself, if theoretically this video could be shared so that every Muslim on the planet sees it, then if there was any reason and justice in this world, and if the truth was the highest desire of the human heart, then Islam would be finished by next week. The whole thing would be done once people saw what Muhammad was. What Muhammad said and did was so obviously atrocious that everyone who knows about it would simply walk away, realizing that this was not a prophet. This was just a sexually frustrated, perverted, sadomasochistic, greedy, thieving, enslaving, torturing, cowardly, humorless, bored, 2-bit desert-dwelling hoodlum. That's all that Muhammad was. Now, of course, as I've also been exploring recently on this channel, people don't always simply go wherever the truth leads, and getting people to change their mind on their worldview involves huge complications. So it's not as easy as just showing them the truth and expecting them to follow it. That's unfortunately not always how it works. But what this poll reveals is that we can at least rescue around 50% of Muslims and deal huge damage to that ideology if we simply reveal to them who Muhammad really was. Muhammad, again, ironically, is their weakness. Now, this is where the church comes in. Indeed, this is where you come in. I'm going to ask something of you here. You see, every church in the world knowing this information, and every Christian in the world knowing this information, should be actively engaged in getting this information out to as many people as possible, knowing that if you do, it can make a huge impact in dismantling Islam around the world. You know, it takes a certain amount of courage to make videos like this. And I don't think about this very often, but there's a certain risk attached to making videos around this subject. But it also takes a certain amount of courage to share videos like this. And I want to acknowledge that I'm going to ask something of you here that will require a bit of courage. See, I'm trying to do my part in making these videos, but the truth is I don't have the power in and of myself to project these videos very far. All I can really do is post them to the Fuel Project social channels, and that's pretty much all I can do. But if we work together on this collectively through social media, we can amplify this message around the world. And by doing so, we can together help to save hundreds of millions of Muslims from this cult. We can weaken its influence on Western society and do huge good for God's kingdom as people see the contrasting message of Jesus Christ. So I do have a very important and simple request here. Can I ask that everyone who watched the previous video, this one right here, Jesus versus Muhammad, can I ask that you share it with as many people as you possibly can? This is the plan that we're working on right now for the retaking of Western civilization. I feel like I should give it some kind of fancy name, but for now it's just known as the plan. And remember I said that everyone can play a role in this plan. Well, if you haven't done anything about this yet, then this is something that you can do. It's so easy. Everyone can do this. Just share this video. I'll link it down below to make it easier. And that's all I want to ask for in this video. If you haven't done it already, can you please share the previous video, Jesus versus Muhammad, with your network and with your church? And I'll link it down below, as I said. Will it cost you something? Maybe. It might be socially uncomfortable for one. People might call you names. They might unfollow you. You might lose some friends. But the time for apathy and fear in the church is over. It's done. As I've been saying recently, comfortable Christianity is over. The days are too wicked. The times are too important. It's time for us to organize and mobilize and be bold and courageous in reclaiming our civilization for Christ and reaching the lost. This is a very simple step that we can do that in that effort. Anyone can do this. Just hit the share button, and statistics show that around 50% of Muslims will be rocked by this, and they may be rescued by these revelations. Scale it up across the world. That could translate to hundreds of millions of Muslims being liberated from this cult. I've done what I can in making that video. So please, I ask that can you be bold and courageous and do all that you can in sharing it as widely as you possibly can. And together we can make a difference. Let's do it. Thank you.